Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Church Solutions podcast. This is episode number 374. My name is Phil Thompson.
And I'm Michael Gray.
And Steve Lacy, who normally is with us, is out today. Michael, how are you doing?
I'm great.
Except for hernias and
Stuff,
all
just
those other
stuff.
things.
Being old. It's just part of being old. Stuff breaks.
We were talking before we started the record button about some of our issues. I have a second monitor that I've used for many, many years. And I was adjusting my desk just a few minutes before we started to record this podcast, and the monitor crashed to the floor, and it's broken. So now I've got one monitor, and I feel disabled. I feel like, oh, what do I do here? I only have one monitor. I can't look at it. I mean, it's weird, right? It's when you're used to it. You know how that is.
So, well, not only that, when you get to a certain age, whatever that age is, you can't see unless you have a really big monitor and right. Giant font. Yeah. Now, I'm not saying I'm there or not yet, but
yeah, well, I am. So
so I'm just teasing. I definitely am. I've got to have my bifocals on and my readers when I'm not, so I can read the text.
Yeah. All right. Well, enough of us whining here. So the podcast today, before we get into it, I already mentioned the teaser at the beginning, which I haven't done yet, but I will for the post editing. We have a webinar coming up March 14th, and it's about PTZ cameras. And what did we end up? What's the actual official title? Do we remember the official title?
Let's see here. The ABCs of PTZs. I think that got voted down, and then we
why ministries are
PTZ.
Using. Yeah, we had a bunch of. We always go through this. We're doing a podcast. We're doing a webinar every month, and we always go through these. Oh, what are we going to call it? What are we going to call it? And we end up having all these titles. But it's something about why PTZs are becoming more popular, why ministries are using them more, and so we are doing this on PTZs March 14th. It's a free webinar. It's about 30 minutes long. If you, it's going to be 12 noon Eastern time, 9 a.m. Pacific time to be specific. And it's we actually have a fellow from PTZ Optics who we've had on this podcast before, Stephen Haywood. And we're not selling you on he's not going to sell you on PTZ Optics, but he knows PTZ cameras really well. So he's going to be our guest on this webinar. And it's really going to be very informative about PTZ cameras. And if you want to find out more about the actual webinar coming up, just go to webinar.streamingchurch.tv. Did I get that right? Okay, yeah, webinar.streamingchurch.tv. And you can sign up. It's free. We'll record it. So if you do miss it, you can still get it later. But and if you want to see some of our past webinars, you can go to streamingchurch.tv/webinar. So it's backwards. So if we didn't confuse you enough, now we have. So, all right. So we're that's coming up. So make sure you go to that. That'll be really educational. I'm looking forward to this because Stephen Haywood's talking a lot about this, and he's really good at it. And you're muted too, by the way, Mike, because your dog was barking. So you can unmute yourself. You're still muted. Did I? Do I have to be the guy to unmute you on this thing?
No.
There we go. All right. Yeah. So yeah, Stephen Haywood's our guest on this webinar, March 14th. So you'll like it. It's going to be good. A lot of video is going to be in this one too. So it's not just us yakking. All right. So today I thought we would talk a little bit about why why it would be a good idea for you to consider posting sermon promos, and to set this whole thing up. What over the years, what a lot of churches have done is they'll take their stream, they'll record it, and then they'll post the entire sermon online, or if you're lucky, they'll post just the sermon. They won't have the music and other things involved as well. So they'll do that online. So people do that a lot. Over the years, they've done that. But studies have shown us that that's not necessarily a great way to get it viewed. Am I right about that? Because there's a trend happening now, Michael, where people, they don't want to watch your entire sermon.
No, and it's really a bait. I can't think of another term. You have to bait people in to get them, not bait and switch, but bait them in to get them to watch the whole thing. And I think right now in the digital world, podcasters, big time podcasters, are the best in the world at this. They will tease you. So they'll take the juiciest little clip out of a podcast, 2 minutes, and say, "Oh, this is so exciting," and it gets you, okay, that's pretty cool. Now I want to go watch the whole thing. Click here.
Yeah, you're right about that. And that's something you could do with your sermons after they're done, and we can talk a little bit about that. What I was going to talk about today, though, and we could talk about both, is that it's really it's easy now to do this. So instead of just posting the whole thing afterwards, you want to encourage people to watch it. So let's talk about 6 reasons why we should do that.
Yeah, and I was chattering on about the after recording, but
which I think
you got to get people to watch the live piece as well. So the pre-piece,
well, we
can kind of the same process.
We can certainly talk about both. So first of all, let's just get right down to the quick. It's very easy to do this now. It's easier than ever. And by the way, if you want to cheat and look at our notes, just go to blog.streamingchurch.tv, and you might even want to subscribe to it, blog.streamingchurch.tv. So here's one of the reasons why it's a good idea to do a promo of a future sermon or a sermon series. So it's easier than ever, right? I mean, I remember doing this with Jeff Love years ago, Mike. We'd pull out the iPhone, and Jeff would do a 60-second promo of what was going to happen, in the week. So it's easy to do. And now, I mean, back when I was doing it, whenever that was in the dark ages, now the iPhone cameras and Android cameras are so much better now, and you can get a quality video just from your phone, and you can post this on social media as well as your own church website.
Absolutely. And if you have a pastor, there's one premise. If you have a pastor who knows what he's talking about on Sunday, then this is pretty easy, because then, as you said, 60 seconds, hey, tell me what you're talking about this Sunday, and so Jeff already typically had an outline and had already done a run through, and so he was ready with some really, here's what you're going to not want to miss this weekend. 60 seconds, 30 seconds, whatever that is.
And that's a good point, Mike, is that you obviously need to plan ahead and have an idea what you're doing instead of trying to figure it out Saturday night. And I know guys are busy, and especially if you're bivocational, but we've done a podcast on this too. But anyhow,
that's a whole argument and podcast that we probably won't want to dig into at this point, is pre-planning.
Yeah, we've done that. I think we've been doing these podcasts for so long. I think we've covered almost every topic. So
almost every topic.
Almost every topic. So it's easier than ever. So the first reason you really want to consider doing this, it's so easy to do this. So plan ahead, come up with a couple points, or maybe just one point, and record it on your mobile device, and then you can post it to social media. But you can also post it to your website. All right, so that's the first thing. And the other point is kind of what you were getting at earlier, Mike. And the second point is promos or short little video clips are really, they have a much better chance of being seen.
Yes. And it's intentional, based on the platform. I would encourage, go in, and whatever social platform you're going to use, Google what is the optimal video time or length that gets seen the most, and kind of build some different sized ones for the platform, because they actually reward that time of video. Right now, YouTube and Facebook and Instagram are all rewarding shorts. So each platform has a different length that their short video platform is. But so for instance, I'm helping my wife and a friend work through this process. And they have found that if they make a 60-second video on YouTube and put it in as a short, YouTube is then promoting that content to people who hasn't seen their content before. So they're
Interesting.
getting rewarded with thousands of views on content that if it was the full, 20-minute, 30-minute video, they're not getting that kind of reward. It's only on the shorts. Again, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. They promote that content because they want people to create more of that short content.
That's interesting that they're doing that. So,
Yep.
so that's another benefit, another reason why you might want to post a sermon promo, or as Mike alluded to earlier, even after you've done all this and done a message and recorded it, chop it up. Let's talk about that at the end. But
yeah,
so promos have a much better chance of being seen in social media, a great opportunity for your content to get seen. And then, of course, encouraging people to go to your website, which is where you want them to eventually be. All right. So the third point here is promos are shareable, which is kind of, again, what you alluded to there, Michael. People are more readily likely, is that proper grammar? They're more likely to share short things instead of long things, right? And so it's going to get seen quicker and more, and then they can share it, right?
As you're building those promos, you have to be thinking of what would excite somebody who attends my church enough to hit the share button. If you can go viral with your content prior to this weekend service with all of your attenders blowing it up by hitting the share button, there's a good chance you're going to connect with people that you haven't connected with before, or maybe some people who've not been coming very often. All of that snowballs when you make that shareable content that's a minute long, 30 seconds long, 2 minutes long, whatever the platform optimal is. You can create that content and really drive traffic to your church online or your live attendance.
And that's the bottom line, right? Is you want to, and we're skipping ahead here in one of the points that I'm talking about here.
Yeah, I'm going to mess them all up. I'm sorry,
Yeah,
Phil.
no, you're not messing it up. I'm leading you into it, but it really, that's the whole point, is you want people to be able to get to your website, to get somewhere where they can get more content and more information about who your church is, what you have to offer, prayer requests. People have an opportunity to give online, those kind of things. So when you have short stuff, when you have short little promos of some type, it's better chance of being seen, and it's much more easy for people to share. And as you said, a really good point will help people go get excited about something. Go, yeah, I like that. Here, let me post it on whatever it is they're using. So yeah. All right. So let's move along here, shall we? So the other point here I have is we're talking about 6 reasons why you should consider doing a sermon promo. And here's another point here. I forget which one this one is, but promos should contain some kind of a specific call to action. So in other words, somewhere either in the promo or maybe in the post, I don't know, you're better at this stuff than I am, Michael, but there needs to be something where people like click here to learn more, or click here to join a small group,
or your pastor says, I want to challenge you. I want you to hit that share button and find that one friend or all of your friends and tell them that they got to check this out, because it's going to be a great topic. Everybody's going to learn something new that's going to help change them in a good way. And then you copy that in the text. Pastor said, click and share. So if you ask people to do that, guess what happens? Some people will do that.
Some people will. Yeah. You have not because you ask not. And so I think that's really true. So yeah, really. So it's a bottom line here. I mean, we're real big on call to actions on everything we do. And we were at the churches we were with, I mean, you really should have a call to action on whatever it is you're talking about anyhow. And because you want people to get to the next step, whatever that might be. And this would be a prime example of it. Give people an opportunity, encourage them to share this video, encourage them to come to the church maybe, or at least go to the website, at least, participate in some form, whatever they're comfortable in. So certainly an important thing to talk about there. So, all right. So, 6 reasons why you should do a sermon promo. It's easier than ever. Promos have a much better chance of being seen by many people. Promos can be shareable. Shareable, is that a word? I guess it is, right?
It is.
Yeah,
it is actually a word.
It's my education, my Bible college education coming through there. Promos should contain a specific call to action, and then promos should, at least in my opinion, link back to your website. So yeah, put your promo on social media, but the sermon should link back to your main website. That way, again, in my opinion, my humble opinion, your potential visitor can learn more about your church, where it meets, service times, ministry programs. The more
I think I hear a 10 reasons why your church website should be your hub podcast coming up.
There you go. Well, yeah.
I mean, you own it. You're not going to be censored there. Nobody's going to take down your content. You can have a donation button for people to give. I'm thinking of all the different reasons. You can have call to actions for people to sign up for things. There's just so many things your website can do for you, but we're sending them to somebody's social platform somewhere where we don't have control of what we're putting in front of people.
Well, and I love your analogy, don't build your business on rented property, right? Is that
absolutely? Absolutely.
So in the same way with your church, I mean, don't build your ministry on rented property, being as the rented property in this analogy would be social media platforms,
Facebook, right? Twitter, Instagram, YouTube,
not that you can't use them.
Yeah, no, we should. We absolutely should. But they can change their terms of service at any time and make your content something that gets banned. And that's not where we want to invest our energy and resources.
Yeah. I'm amazed now, we're a company that does streaming video as well as other things, and we've been doing this for decades. But I still will run across, and you do too, some churches that just don't really have a functioning website, and they pretty much direct everybody to their Facebook page. And look, I know there's lots of people on Facebook. We just did a webinar on all this stuff, but as you just said, sometimes things go wrong and you're banned, you're censored, you say something that, somebody didn't like, and poof,
all your stuff's gone. All your recorded services and everything else are suddenly poof in the wind. The other thing being is there's no tech support on any of those platforms. If something breaks and the stream goes down or a recording doesn't happen correctly, you're just out of luck. You might hear something in a couple weeks, but nobody's helping you today.
Nobody's helping you today, and so that's the problem you have there. So yeah, so again, consider what you're doing here. We'll wrap this up here. Let me get to another point here, but it's just so important to point people to your website. And I know, like, oh, my website, I don't have anybody to manage it. Well, there's lots of opportunities out there. There's people that can do that for you.
Yeah, you can do a Wix site. There's bunches of free websites that you can have a free website that'll be sufficient for what you need to do.
Yeah. I mean, that's how we started. Steve started the company back in 2001 with myflock.com, which is still in existence, website templates that you can do pretty much yourself. And we still offer those. If you have a streamingchurch.tv account, we still offer those designs. So the website really is where you want people to go. And social media is a great little add-on, but it's not something that should be your main meat and potatoes, at least there we go on that. All right. All right.
Yep.
So moving right along here, right? Another reason why you should consider posting sermon promos would be it raises the profile of your church, not only in the community, but even, I guess, nationwide and globally, possibly, if you do it right. It raises the profile of your church. It can raise your profile as a pastor. I'm personally not interested in that if I'm pastoring, but I definitely want people to know about my church because I feel
Sure.
like we have a community that could help people and help people spiritually in lots of different ways. So when you're
Yeah.
posting these things, it gets out all the things we talked about right earlier here. Uh, it gets the profile of the church out there.
Yep. Yeah, and if you're doing great things for people in your community and you're feeding them and clothing them and housing them and doing all the greatest work in the world and nobody knows about it, this is even nonprofits battle this. We have some phenomenal nonprofits near us that do extraordinary things for people in need, but they can't get enough people who need things to come to them because they don't see it on social media. They don't know they're there. They don't know that there's a place that I can go that they'll pay my rent. If I only knew that.
Yeah, yeah. The Habitat for Humanity, different
Yep,
places like
absolutely.
that can really. I mean, they do a pretty good job of promo, but yeah, that's just an
Sure.
example, right? I mean,
Some do,
yeah,
some do, and some don't. But it's the same with
yeah,
churches.
yeah,
It's not that you're tooting your own horn. You're saying, I have something that is helpful and life changing here, and I want as many people to know about it as possible.
yeah,
And
yeah.
so I'm going to use every tool. I mean, not just the ones we mentioned. I mean, every tool to get the word out. Hey, there's something great here, and there's something great for you that could really help you here.
Yeah.
Come and check it out.
That's the bottom line. So these kind of things, can really help your church, and that's one of the advantages of having a sermon promo is a short little promo that we just talked about. All these things that can point people to your website, can point people to your church because you want to help people. You're there to help people, right? You're there to do ministry to people for ministry and help people out. So all these things that we just talked about, these 6 points here, you go to blog.streamingchurch.tv and see it. But as Mike mentioned at kind of beginning here, you can also take what you've already done, if you've done a sermon that's been recorded, and you can, for all these same reasons, you can
Yep.
post it.
Yep.
It's easier than ever. Now, look, yeah, you're gonna have to do some editing, but there's some
Sure.
editing software out there that's free
Yep.
and stuff that's not free that still makes it pretty easy to do editing. Uh,
Absolutely.
and you can take little bits and pieces of your message and make them shareable, make them where people can see them, where they can share them, where they it may be something that has a specific content in it that calls people to action. And you can do all this stuff with video today that's so much easier than when you and I were messing around with it 20 years ago. you know
Yeah.
I
It
mean,
used to take hours to cut and clip videos. Now there's so many tools that there are actually tools that will just basically automatically allow you to clip pieces out of your YouTube archive. I think you should archive it on your website. There's still other free tools, as Phil said. There's no reason not to get those clips. Pastor's going to say something funny. He's going to say something really poignant. And you just take that little clip and say, you know, isn't this great? Click here to hear the rest of this sermon.
yeah. And even if you want to really have some fun, you can do some bloopers. I mean,
Oh
I
yeah,
I still
got
think of
plenty of
Jeff Love.
those.
I still think
Oh
of
my
Jeff Love's
goodness.
deal with the was it the frozen pumpkin pie
Oh yeah, it was the frozen pumpkin pie,
that
one of
was
the
no longer
most
frozen?
infamous ever. He's doing a tithing thing, and he's talking about the pie as an example of you cut it up and you give all the pieces away, and you don't give God his piece of pie, and so he mistakenly thought pumpkin pies were
Solid.
solid once they defrosted.
Yeah. He took a frozen
dipped it up
pie.
and dumped the whole thing on the floor, and everyone, including me, just fell out laughing.
Yeah, he was showing. Yeah, he tilted the pie to show everybody, and of course, by the time he had it in his office, and by the time he went to the platform, it had thawed out. Yeah,
You missed one, Phil. Later on, I'm on stage doing announcements. This is years later, and I'm doing some announcements and welcoming the guests. So glad you're here. It's going to be great today. Jeff's going to be talking about this, and he's walking up the ramp, and he's, Diet Coke. He's got a Diet Coke. It's like this tall, and he's got his phone. He's looking at something about the sermon, and he walks dead on into the wall, and just styrofoam cup just exploded on him. And I literally, I had to take a knee on stage. I was laughing so hard, and the crowd he walked on stage and just almost couldn't get the crowd to stop laughing. It was so funny. It was
That's
epic.
funny. That's funny. Yeah, those things do happen. So if you're rolling video,
Catch them on video, man. Talk about a
something.
Teaser for a weekend sermon. Look what I accidentally did this weekend. Kaboom, splash.
Yeah. All that stuff catches people's attention. All right. Okay, so look, we covered stuff here, and you may have questions about it if you're watching or listening to this podcast. You can just send us an email, support@streamingchurch.tv. We'll be happy to share with you what we know, send some resources your way, whatever we can do. That's what we do. That's why we have a blog, .streamingchurch.tv blog. That's why we do this podcast, why we do webinars. What else do? We do stuff, and it's really designed to give you resources. As a church, as a ministry. And so that's what we're trying to do. And we're always open to special guests. And, if you have something to share, we'd love to hear from you. So don't forget about a webinar. Yeah, don't forget about our webinar coming up. If you're listening to this.
And
14th.
The great folks at PTZ Optics are going to give away a PTZ camera.
That's right.
So if you go to that registration, read the whole thing and follow the directions so that you can get registered to win that PTZ camera.
So that's webinar.streamingchurch.tv.
Yep. And the title is Why PTZ Cameras Are Taking Over Live Streaming for Ministries.
Yeah, we got the right title this time. Yeah. we did this.
Well, we make them so long that nobody can remember.
It's like, what is this?
Like, all right. Well, there you go.
Yeah, just remember it's PTZ cameras, but webinar.streamingchurch.tv. Sign up. Yeah, it's a chance to win a free PTZ camera. I forgot to mention that.
Dude, I'm jealous. Cool. I'd love to have one of those.
I know. Let's see if maybe I can win one. Maybe I can do it.
Yeah, maybe so.
Myself. I'll use a false name or something. Use an alias or something. So, all right. Well, thank you, Michael Gray, for your time today. Sure appreciate your input.
Always, Phil.
All right. And on behalf of Steve Lacy, I'm Phil Thompson. Thank you for watching or listening to the Church Solutions podcast. We'll catch you next time on another episode. Please take care of yourselves and each other.